He drained her bank account, took the car, the business, everything. But the mansion? That was never his to begin with. For 34 years, Eleanor Harper was the quiet woman who never asked for anything. The kind of wife who packed her husband's vitamins every morning and texted him to remind him to eat between meetings. A woman who never missed a single doctor's appointment even when they weren't hers. She wasn't flashy or loud. She didn't chase attention. She just showed up, again and again, like clockwork. Every Sunday for the past 5 years, she'd driven Richard, her husband, to his lawyer's office and waited outside in the car. Sometimes for 15 minutes. Sometimes over an hour. She never asked what the meetings were about. She trusted him. She always had. But what Eleanor didn't know was that inside that elegant brick building, Richard wasn't discussing estate updates for their family. He was erasing her. It was a Tuesday. Rainy. The kind of dull, gray afternoon that made everything feel heavier. Eleanor was reorganizing the home office like she did every spring. She didn't mean to snoop. She just wanted to clean up the clutter. But when she pulled open the bottom drawer, a file spilled onto the carpet. She bent down, brushed off a few dog hairs, and paused. Her name wasn't on the top page. That alone made her stomach clench. It was a draft. A new will. Cleanly typed, printed on creamy legal paper. Everything was listed in neat bullet points: bank accounts, the beach house in Vermont, the art collection from Eleanor's late mother, and even Richard's luxury watch collection. Beneficiary, April Monroe. Not Eleanor Harper. Eleanor blinked. Sat down on the carpet, knees folded under her like a child. She stared at the pages in silence. Time moved, but she didn't. The clock on the wall ticked. A bird chirped outside. Somewhere in the background, the washing machine beeped. But inside Eleanor's mind, the silence was deafening. April was 29. Ambitious. Sharp. Blonde. A real estate marketing consultant, or so Richard had once introduced her at a gala. She had the kind of laugh that turned heads, and stilettos that clicked like gunshots on hardwood floors. Eleanor had noticed her hanging around Richard more in the past year. She assumed April was helping him with his rental properties. Helping. Eleanor remembered the last charity event they attended as a couple. April stood too close to Richard. Touched his arm too often. Laughed at things that weren't even jokes. Eleanor had felt something stir in her chest that night. A crack. But she never imagined this. That night, Eleanor didn't cry. She didn't throw a fit or break anything. She simply made herself a cup of chamomile tea and sat at the kitchen table. And then she made a list. She wasn't going to scream. She wasn't going to beg. She wasn't even going to confront him. Eleanor Harper had spent 34 years being the quiet, supportive, overlooked wife. Now she was going to become the woman no one saw coming. What Richard had completely forgotten was that Eleanor had been visiting Mr. Feldman, too. Richard's lawyer. The same man he met every Sunday. Eleanor had been meeting with him secretly for months about her own affairs. Updating documents. Learning the ropes. Slowly asking the right questions. Mr. Feldman liked Eleanor. She brought him cookies every time. Listened intently. Took notes. So when she showed up holding a copy of Richard's will, the one she wasn't in, Mr. Feldman didn't flinch. He opened a locked drawer. Pulled out 3 folders. Did Richard forget? He asked, voice dry. Forget what? That the cottage in Blueville was bought under your mother's trust? Eleanor blinked. He opened another folder. This land the company warehouse sits on was gifted to you in 1997. Richard never transferred the deed back. Eleanor just sat there, hands folded. And then Mr. Feldman smiled. Funny how the things he wanted the most were never his to give away. Richard invited her to dinner 3 weeks later. Not at a restaurant. At home. When Eleanor walked into the dining room, April was already seated at the table. There was champagne, lobster bisque, a new floral centerpiece. Eleanor sat. Richard cleared his throat like a CEO addressing a tired boardroom. I think it's time we move on, Elle, he said. You'll be taken care of. April sipped her wine, crossed her legs. I mean, you've had a good life with Richard, she added casually. Eleanor looked at her. Then at Richard. Then, slowly, stood up. She didn't yell. She didn't argue. She just said, "Enjoy your dinner," and left. That night, she didn't sleep. She stayed up reading every page of every deed. And then she signed 2. Just 2. But those signatures were the beginning of Richard's end. The company Richard had built was about to merge with a multinational firm. The deal hinged on the land rights for the warehouse headquarters. Everyone thought Richard owned it. Until a letter arrived. From Eleanor Harper. A cease and desist. She was now enforcing her rights as sole owner of the land. The deal collapsed in 48 hours. Investors panicked. Stockholders resigned. And Richard? He stared at the news headline like it was written in fire. Merger falls apart over hidden property owner. April didn't ask questions. She just packed her things quietly. Richard sat in Mr. Feldman's office with April by his side. Confident. Casual. Expecting to finalize everything and move into the Blue Hill mansion. But Mr. Feldman cleared his throat. There's been a few changes. He slid forward a folder. Eleanor's signature gleamed in blue ink. Everything was transferred. Legally. Silently. Months ago. The mansion belonged to her mother's trust. The accounts? Blocked. The business assets? Liquidated into a charitable foundation. The only thing left under Richard's name? A pension, tied to a frozen account. Richard's mouth opened. Closed. No sound came. April stood up and walked out. She didn't even look back. A week later, Richard tried to enter the Blue Hill mansion with a suitcase. The gate didn't open. A security guard stepped forward. Private property, sir. This is MY house. Not anymore. From the upstairs balcony, Eleanor stepped into view. Hair neatly tied. Pearl earrings. Black tailored suit. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just said one thing. You took my name off your will, Richard. But I never needed your name to begin with. The gates closed. Slowly. With finality. Weeks passed. Richard moved into a 2-bedroom rental. April was gone. The company was under audit. His reputation was ashes. One afternoon, he received a letter. From the Eleanor Harper Women's Housing Trust. It read, "Your former property now houses women recovering from divorce, abuse, and financial trauma. We thank you for your unintentional contribution." No name. Just a foundation seal. On his birthday, Richard received a package. Inside was a framed photo. The last family vacation they took together in front of the Blue Hill mansion. Taped to the back, a handwritten note. You erased me on paper. But you forgot. I was always the one holding the pen. Eleanor. He didn't cry. But he didn't smile either. Because for the first time in his life, Richard Harper had nothing left to control. And everything was already hers.